Hello, 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 beautiful people. I am so excited to be back here with you today. For all of those who are joining us via LinkedIn Live, we are now at our new time slot of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Excited for that. We took a poll a little while ago for those of you who've been riding with us and continuing to be a part of this amazing series that we're bringing for you. You guys gave us some feedback, right? We asked the question, are you able to join us live or are you watching us on the replay? And most folks were honest. Listen, I'm catching you on the replay. 10:30 a.m. Eastern time doesn't work for me for whatever reason. I got other stuff going on and I can't join the live. So we gave a couple of options for time slots that could work. And one of them was 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays. And we took it and here we are. So this is our first time joining you at 2 p.m. And I'm going to tell you guys, it was an adjustment. It was an adjustment. I am a morning person. I like to knock things out oftentimes in the morning so I can feel like my day is coming to a little bit of a downslope. So to be able to ramp back up at 2 o'clock, to be able to be with you was amazing because I'm like, oh, I have people to talk to. I have things that I need to make sure that I'm doing in this 2 o'clock hour. So it was actually a shift for me, which was a good thing because I had a really busy morning. So super excited to be here with you at the 2 p.m. slot. We will be here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday for the month of June. And if people are showing up live and the vibe is where it needs to be and this is where we need to stay, then this is where we will be. So for those of you who are joining me live, please do drop your city in the chat. I would love to see where people are tapping in from so that I can shout you out. We would love to be able to vibe and see who's here. This is going to be a really dense topic that we're talking about. We carried on for our last LinkedIn Live that was recorded last Tuesday at our old time slot. And we were introducing this idea of what does it look like to demonstrate audacity in your career? And it pulls a real clear thread through. So I'm excited to continue us on. But if you're here, please just drop your city in the chat. If you're listening to us live, we're also streaming live on YouTube. Maybe you all didn't know that, right? It's a little bit of an announcement, 2 announcements there. We are streaming live on YouTube. We are Career Gems for the Journey on YouTube. So take advantage, right? If you like the video element and you're a YouTuber and you like to put stuff in a playlist and kind of bang it all out, we're there. So please do go ahead and follow us on YouTube, and we'll continue to stream live to LinkedIn and also stream live to YouTube. Excited to bring that in. Okay, I see folks are starting to join the chat, drop their city in the chat, and I love it. So welcome. It looks like Eric is joining from Brooklyn. That's what's up. Great to see you, Eric. Excited that you could be here with us. If there are other folks who are also in the chat and joining us live, please do take advantage of dropping your city in the chat so I can shout you out. So the other big announcement that I wanted to make sure that I shared, because you guys know I'm living in my authentic truth. I get excited, right? I get fired up. I love talking about thriving careers. I love talking about dropping gems for folks. So I have to get all of my housekeeping done in the beginning or else it may not happen. And then my team will be like, Leah, we said we were going to do that. And I'll be like, I wanted to, and I forgot. So I'm going to do it now. It looks like we have a LinkedIn user who's joining us from Phoenix. So shout out to you for joining us from Phoenix. Excited that you're able to be here. And you also said you're excited to be a part of the live. I'm excited that you're here too. Look. Okay. So second big announcement is we talked about this a little bit on the last LinkedIn Live, and we took advantage of the opportunity just to offer a new service. So at careergemsforthejourney.org, we're offering a brand new service where we're focusing on team building events. So we have some amazing clients. We have some corporate clients, some one-on-one clients that have just been, dope and riding with us for many, many years now. And they continue to ask, like, Leah, you're constantly, working directly with, really small groups or doing stuff one-on-one. But we're realizing that in this virtual world, in this hybrid world, in this world where we're bringing in new people to the organization and people are shifting out of the organization, that we really need more team building resources. People don't have all of the tools that they need to be able to work together because sometimes we're throwing them right into brand new environments on really important work. So we want you to be able to come in and bring us some team building work so that folks set up on the right foundation. And I said, say less. You say less. So join us at gemsforthejourney.org. We have a work with us page, and on the work with us page, you'll get to see a lot of new information about the service that we're offering that incorporates team building. We also do keynote speaking, and we also still do group coaching and all of our other services, but we are building really because our clients asked for it. So once our clients asked for it, we knew that there was a need, and we wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to have a really authentic experience from a facilitator that not only has successfully navigated corporate America, but also has now navigated entrepreneurship. And if you have teams that have a really diverse background, sometimes it takes a little bit of real intention in order to get to the level of engagement and relationship building and communication that's really necessary. And that's what we're here for at Career Gems for the Journey. So head over to gemsforthejourney.org, click on our Work With Us page. You will have the opportunity to kind of drop a little bit of information in, let us get to know you, and then we can figure out what the right service offering is for you. So I wanted to make sure that I got that out of the way. Boom. Housekeeping part done until we get to the tail end here. So what we're going to talk about today is dense. So it's going to be juicy, but it's also going to be something that I'm going to carry through to the next time that we get a chance to be together. So I'd love for you to join me for this entire series. So this entire series, we're going to be talking about why is audacity a thing? Why is it a thing that's necessary in corporate America? We talked in our previous LinkedIn Lives where we took the opportunity to really break down learning to amplify for a thriving career. If you didn't see that, you can catch it on the podcast at gemsforthejourney.org or wherever you find your podcast. It's also available on the replay here on LinkedIn. So you can catch it in a number of different areas. If you're on the move, lots of places where you can find us. But we broke that down because we really wanted to think about, there's this constant challenge of what value did I bring to the organization that I hear clients talking about? You know, what is my story? What's most important to the work that I do? And how can I tell that story in a way that is impactful without feeling like bragging? And many of you may have heard this before from me, but I do not think bragging is a bad word. I think it gets a negative connotation. I think if we're not bragging, if we're not telling our own story, then there are some consequences that come with that. So I'm excited to be able to break down the why it's important to tell your own story. So we talked about the how before, how to tell your own story, how to low key flex, so it doesn't feel like, you know, you're bragging. But I'm also here to kind of reframe the thinking on what is bragging and why is it important. The last soundbite from the time that we were together was men get told that they're confident, women get told that they're bragging. That happens really often, I think, in some of the environments, even if it's not said in direct words. The reference that are made to women who tend to have, you know, clear communication about the value that they bring to the organization isn't always positive. On the other hand, I do find that professionals of color, you know, oftentimes are never taught that they need to speak to the work that they do and speak to the value that they bring in the organization. Now, let me talk about the why. Why is it so important? So first, I had a great conversation with the really talented Melva Holt, and Melva is over at Pays Leadership. Melva and I get to get together. She's been a podcast guest. We did a whole series together. Love Melva. Shout out to you, Melva. She might even be listening. So if you are, drop your city in the chat, Melva. But we had this opportunity to talk about what are real organizations that you desire to work for. What are they looking for in talent, right? Melva does all things, you know, talent management, leadership, talent acquisition, really, you know, an expert in her field. And what we got to talk to was, if we're not telling our own story, the risk that the risk that's there, the why for telling your own story is, if you don't tell it, someone else is telling it on your behalf, probably not nearly as well as you could, and not nearly as accurately as the work that you've done and the effort that you've put in and the teams that you've been able to build or the influence you've been able to have in the organization. Basically, they're just, you know, they're not doing it. They're not doing it the way that you could do it if you chose for yourself. So that's one reason. First reason is someone else is probably telling the story and they're probably not doing nearly as good of a job acknowledging the work that you bring to the table. The second part is, if you're not telling the story, likely not only is someone else telling the story of the work that you do, but they may even be taking credit for it. Like, that's a real thing. That's a real thing where, the proximity to work, and we've seen a lot of this in corporate before, where, there was a team effort, but some people tend to acknowledge their contribution to the team more or less than others. And if you're not acknowledging your contribution, someone else is more than happy to link themselves up with those results and to make sure that they're telling that story as a win that they put on the board. So I want to make sure that folks understand the why behind amplifying and telling your own story. And I like to call it owning your own narrative. So as you own your own narrative, write that down. As you do the work to own your own narrative, and you do the work to show up consistently by telling the truth, stating facts, demonstrating that you have receipts, right? You have the receipts for why you are able to speak to or be the subject matter expert in whatever thing is most important to you. You have those receipts. So I actually call it owning your own narrative, because it's not a matter of fabricating or creating something that doesn't exist. There is no need to go off and manufacture something. I'm not encouraging that at all. I'm encouraging you to take credit for the results that you already created, that you already delivered to the organization, and speak to them in a way that acknowledges and directly associates you with them. So when people are asking about critical projects, important opportunities, partnerships, experts, panelists, whatever those things are, your name has the ability to come up in the conversation. If you're not talking about what you're doing and no one knows, no one's informed, your name doesn't come up in the conversation. If your name's not in the conversation, nothing's happening. Essentially, we're standing still. So in order for your name to come up on that short list for promotion, on that short list for special projects, on that short list for getting, exclusive access to be able to do something, or confidential information, whatever those things are, whatever you desire in your career. For me, the short list was always exciting because I was looking forward to opportunities to be able to do work internationally. That was always my goal. I wanted to work internationally and to have the opportunity to live in another country and do something that was unique and have that experience for myself. So that was always the short list that I was trying to get on. When you identify for yourself the types of opportunities that you're looking for in your career, then you can say, I need to get my name on that short list. Here's the gem. There's always a short list. There's always a rolling catalog of people who could be good at this next great thing, who could be the next leader of, who could be the next foundational builder of this thing. So my goal when I was in corporate America was to get on the short list for an international assignment so that I could, live abroad in another country. It was so important to me that I made sure that when I was talking about work that I was doing domestically in the US, I was talking about it in making a direct association of how I could do similar work in Latin America or similar work in Canada. And that's what really got the ball rolling for those kinds of opportunities. And quick story, I actually had a manager who I reached out to directly to say, this is the work that I'm doing. I heard that the international team also has, additional opportunities for this. Would you consider me for that opportunity? Audacious. Audacious, right? So the answer at that time was, they're not taking on any new folks at that moment. And I actually got feedback from my vice president, like, man, you really put it out there. You really stepped into what the future could potentially be. It wasn't even something that I was thinking about for you. So he wasn't necessarily thrilled that I pushed him in that moment. But I'll be honest with you, a year from then, I had an international assignment. So if I hadn't acknowledged it for myself, put my name on that short list, done excellent work, right? I'd already been killing it in the US, already done, excellent work, and had opportunities to work with talented people and had the resources, right? The credibility, right? That if you send me abroad, you're going to get back positive feedback. But it would never have happened had I not put myself in the position to deliver results in the US that were exceptional, that folks took notice of, and then B, to make the direct association for him. I would like to do this. Am I the one that would you recommend? And if the answer is no now, how do I get to a yes? So that level of audacity comes really, and I had a great conversation yesterday with one of my folks on the podcast, and you guys are going to love this episode of the podcast. I can't wait for you to hear it. I had a great episode discussion, and the leader that I was talking to really helped to clarify it in words that I hadn't used before. The only way for you to be audacious, she said, was to already be good at what you do. Already be good at what you do. Then you have the ability to be audacious. When people are out here being audacious with no skills, no qualifications, no competencies, you're just making a mess. You're just making a mess. And a lot of times those people will eventually get found out. Now, when they get found out to be not as good as they say they are, what happens to them is not my priority, right? My priority is to make sure that we focus on giving you the right resources so that you can be audacious because you have the right things and you have the credibility. And if your organization recognizes that and acknowledges that, then that audacity will be seen as an opportunity for them to help you get to where you want to go. And if not, and your organization is not feeling that, then it's a great opportunity for you to think about, where else can I go? If you're not getting what you need from your current organization and you have a particular interest, where else should you go? Another team, another department, another company, all of those things could be options that are on the table. So the other why for audacity, right? And this is the third one. I'm going to close out with this. And then I'd love to hear from some folks in the chat. And we'll talk a little bit more about how, what are some questions that you have about when is it appropriate to kind of step up and to really step into that audacity. I'd love to hear some examples if folks have them. But what I want to make sure that I covered here was audacity is the opposite oftentimes of what people perceive as humility. Audacity can be the opposite of what people perceive as humility. And as you guys can see, I am a Black woman. I was born and raised in the US. I have, a pretty non-traditional background. So I am not I'm not the kind of individual that we will encounter in typical corporate environments. So I constantly get reminded that, you're not what I would expect when I think about a corporate strategist, or you're not what I would expect if I think about an engineer. You're not what I would expect when I think about a procurement expert, right? You're not what I would think about. Well, that's why the audacity is necessary. If my face and my name is not the person that you would think about when you think about an expert in those areas or a great resource in those areas, it's because you haven't met me. And because I am all of those things. And I have to make sure that people are well informed that I am those things so that the right people and the right opportunities can come to me. So a lot of times we've been kind of conditioned that humility is the way to get forward. And, you keep your head down, you do the work. And maybe that's dying off because Gen Z is not having that. They're not doing the put your head down and kind of do the work, churn through. They're not here for it. When I think about other folks in previous generations, that was kind of the advice that we were given in corporate America. So there was no audacity there. And there was certainly no owning your own narrative in that workspace. So we're in a new workspace. We're in a new era. There's a lot that has changed. So in this new era, bringing your audacity, right, and a balance maybe for your humility, if you desire, right, which I'm really encouraging folks to do, is what is going to be required in order for you to continue to grow in your career. Humility from the standpoint of, as a leader, you are responsible to really serve your team, especially if you have a team of direct reports. The idea is your expertise, your value is in service to making the whole team great, is in service to making the whole team successful and to making sure that the needs of the team are met in order for them to perform at their highest level. And now for you guys to be firing on all cylinders, humility. I hear it. I got it. I'm with you. Where humility does not work for you is when humility gets you to be not thinking of yourself as a valuable asset to the organization and not telling the story of how you bring that value. That's where it will hurt you, because humility will have you underpaid, overworked, and undervalued. Humility will have you underpaid, overworked, and undervalued. Because as you're holding back the information for what you're great at, how you've been able to influence people, the results you've been able to deliver for the organization, the strategicness of your thinking and your moving, your ability to influence people, as you're not talking about those things, when it's time to talk about compensation, people who are talking about those things are getting the compensation. People who are talking about those things are getting paid more. People who are talking about those things are also seen as great resources that shouldn't be overworked or spread too thin. We don't want to spread Leah too thin, because then she won't be able to be great at whatever it is she does. So when I talk about being underpaid, overworked, and undervalued, humility and not telling your story, not understanding how impactful it is for you to own your own narrative in these environments where people will potentially steal your ideas, or people will take credit for work that you did. If you're not there, if your story isn't there, if your narrative isn't present, you're operating without taking full advantage of all the assets that you have at your disposal, while other people are. And you guys know I wrote the book, Salary Power Moves, Winning the Compensation Negotiation. It's available now on our website at gemsforthejourney.org/shop. You can grab a copy of the book for $9.99. That was a mini commercial. I didn't intend to do it. It just happened. It just happened. But you know how important to me salary negotiation and compensation is, because we go to work to be for-profit entities. We go to work in order to provide resources for our household, for our families, for ourselves, for our lifestyle, whatever we go to work for. But it is in order to make money. So I don't want to pretend at any point in time that we're showing up out of the kindness of our hearts. We may do that in other areas, in charitable, nonprofit work and spaces. But when we're coming into corporate America, we're coming as a for-profit entity, and being clear that we're motivated by those additional resources, that compensation, that money, that power, or that decision right, or that ability to influence, or that autonomy. Being clear about what we're motivated by helps us to make sure that as we're telling the story, we get closer to the things that motivate us and closer to the things that will give us access to what we desire in our career. Because that's the only way that we can be successful, is we're clear on what we want. We're very intentional about working towards it, and we're looking to grow in the areas that we need to in order to see success as we define it, in order to achieve success as we define it. So I really wanted to make sure I got really deep into the why today, why we need to have a little bit more audacity to be able to tell our story and to be able to take credit when credit is due. We talked about this a little bit before. So now I'm going to jump. The next time we're all together, I am going to jump right into, what does it take, right? What should the environment feel like in order for your audacity to really be able to bloom? Because there's some things and I had a really great client conversation not too long ago, and we talked a lot about imposter syndrome. And I have some mixed feelings on imposter syndrome that I want to get into. Mixed feelings because I don't think that we talk enough about the environment that people are in that creates imposter syndrome or allows it to thrive. We talk about it in the form of the individual as something that they need to solve. And I want to break that up. I need to tear that down, because if we're not talking about the environment that the person that they're in, then we can't talk about what impact that their imposter syndrome is having on them if we're not talking about the impact the environment is having on them. So oftentimes it's imposter syndrome or concepts like that, and I'm doing air quotes for imposter syndrome because I know it's a thing, but I want to make sure that we talk about it in appropriate context. Sometimes it's the imposter syndrome that doesn't allow us to be audacious. Sometimes it's the environment that we're in that really quells our opportunity to say, how can I own my own narrative? How can I talk about it in my own way? Talk about my results so that I'm appropriately compensated. I am appropriately given the autonomy that I'm looking for. So the two are directly related. But first we got to break down why we're not buying into some of this imposter syndrome concept, especially when it requires the individual to solve it for themselves. I believe that imposter syndrome is a cultural challenge. It's the culture in the organization that is allowed to thrive, that makes people feel like they are an imposter, and they don't make them feel it through osmosis. They make them feel it through signals. through omissions, through not being invited, through not being included, through being challenged, through not being believed. So I want to talk a little bit about that so we can make sure that give people the background as how to bring that audacity forward. We want to talk about the how. We went through that. We talked a little bit about the why today, but I also want to talk about the environment and what may be holding you back. And if the environment is part of the problem, then that's part of something that needs to be discussed, right? Let's bring it to the table because we want to really make sure that we give you robust resources here at Career Gems for the Journey. So this has been amazing. I always love riding with you. I'm so excited to be able to be live and have some folks join me live. Shout out to everyone who joined me and dropped comments in the chat. Especially for those who, dropped them in early on. I can't see all of them now because it scrolls by me. So I'm not going to try to get into the chat, but I appreciate you all for being here live with me. We will be back here Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will make sure to continue to drop gems that are going to allow you to build a thriving career. If you didn't hear us at the top of the show, we also have a brand new offering that we want to make sure folks are aware of. We offer team building services. Head over to gemsforthejourney.org and click on the Work With Us page. And when you click on the Work With Us page, you will have the opportunity to find out about all of our new resources that we're offering. And then last but not least, for those who are watching live, you can see it directly on the screen. This is the link for you to use in order to join our email list. We're creating a really robust set of resources for folks that are off of the platform, that are specifically folks who are joining our mailing list. And we want more people to have access to gems directly into their inbox. We have some free courses that we're promoting. We have book resources, Salary Power Moves, Winning the Compensation Negotiation, that you want to be a part of. So go ahead and join our mailing list today. And you can join us through this link here. And we will see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And there will be more gems that get dropped. Let's talk a little bit more about the imposter syndrome in the environment and what impact it has on our... Man, it's getting exciting. It is getting really, really, really exciting. So we have more gems for you there. So this has always been a pleasure. I appreciate you all for joining me here live, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. Thanks for riding with me.